What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, I am bringing you my first place, undefeated, locals, pure ZEFRA deck profile. In my opinion, this is the best pendulum deck. Now, I don't know competitively. I'm sure there are other pendulum decks that are like competent, but I feel like the combo ones just lose to too much. And like require your whole hand, whereas this deck is a control variant, and it's not something we've seen very often. Is a lot of control pendulum decks, but this deck does it very well, very consistently, and is able to compete in the modern meta game. And I will show you exactly how he did that today. So overall record was 4-0-1. And I feel really good about it. Long story short, there's like the post locals deck profile that I will throw a link in the description to my friend Tony's channel, Asian with Cards. It was really jank. We got kicked out of the shop because it was getting late, and so we recorded on the hood of my car. Plus, I opened my OTS packs, and they got insane. So definitely check that out. I'll link that, and I'll link Tony's channel down below. So go check out that video. But this is going to be more of like the locals recap. We're going to zoom through the deck profile pretty quickly talking about cards, how they performed, and all that, and then we'll talk about our matchups. So starting off with the main deck, pretty plain and simple. You have your best Zephyr cards: triple Zefrath, triple Zephyr New, and triple Zefrax. So these are the only three you want to play as three of. Zefrath is the best starter in your deck. Zephyr New is your, I don't know, kind of like your Salamangreat Gazelle kind of card, gets you a search every turn, and then sometimes on your opponent's turn. And then Zefraxy, this is your best low scale because seeing this card increases your chances of being able to search any monster in the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm not kidding. All right, then for like more of the utility Zefras, we have double Zephyr Thubin, one Zephyr Pilica, one Zephyr Naga, Zefraxiton, and one Zephyr Wendy. So kind of splitting these up here. These two are your high scales. These four are your low scales. The low scales are more important because you're almost always going to be scaling Zefrath and sending Zephyr New to copy its scale. And so you almost always want to pair Zefrath with a low scale. That's ideal, of course. So you obviously want to have more low scales than high scales. And of course, don't forget the three Zefraxy as well. But they all have their own utilities, right? Zephyr Thubin can pop face-up cards. Zephyr and Pilica can special summon a Zephyr monster from grave. That doesn't happen all that often, but I did run into a couple of Solemns this week. And you probably will regularly run into Solemns, especially on the local scene, because they need to make up for like lack in power if they're not playing a good deck, and so sometimes, or like a meta deck, and so sometimes you see Solemn a little more often on at locals, but still good to just recover stuff back that way. Plus it's a low scale and it's level 3, which matters as well. Then there's Zephyr Naga. He did not come up today. I played him before because the situation came up where you open like exactly Zefrath plus Zephyr New, and so you have to scale Zephyr New, and you just want to use this to bounce the Zephyr New back to hand, just so it doesn't get locked up in your scales. Zefraxiton pops face down cards. This card was huge all day. I played Eldritch, I played Subterror, and in like both matchups, this card was huge. Also, it's 1900, so it's literally the biggest beater in the entire Zephyr core, and that actually matters to actually like apply pressure to your opponent, and at least I put him on a clock. And then Zephyr Wendy, she adds face up Zephyr monsters from your extra deck back to your hand when she's summoned. So a lot of good utility there, you know, just really good and mainly low scales. For the one main search target as part of our combo, one Inspector Border. This guy was good in about exactly 3 games, and I probably summoned him in about 5 or 6 games. So I don't know. I mean, I played Eldritch once, and I played Subterrors. Obviously, those aren't the ideal matchups for a card like this. But it was good versus Bird Up, and it was good versus Phantom Knights once. But other than that, it wasn't huge. It was randomly good versus Subterror one time, because it meant they couldn't use the flip effect of Guru. Yeah, it was fine. I mean, like, I saw this as a spicy tech. Shout out to Dilemma, by the way. A lot of this deck list is going to be inspired by him. I don't even remember exactly what his list was at this point, but this is probably very close. Maybe a couple cards swapped out here or there from his initial list that I saw and I really liked. So I'd consider dropping Inspector Border, maybe not even dropping it, but like swapping it for something Border-esque. I just don't know what it would be at this point. Triple Gamma. Gamma's insane in this deck. As you'll see, we're playing a pendulum deck. We do so much before we ever actually put monsters on the field that our opponent is going to be very wanting to hand trap us. Triple Shifter and 1 Ash finishing up the hand trap lineup. Shifter is supposed to be busted in this deck. It was not yesterday. I think it was good exactly one time. And, no, maybe twice. Yeah, it was good twice. It was good once versus Bird Up, and it was good once versus Phantom Knights. And other than that, I drew it probably like 4 or 5 other times, and it was not good a single other time. I played Thunder Dragon, I was like, that's awful. I played Guru, I was like, that's awful. There was a lot of situations where this card was not very good. And then the 1 Ash. What I like about Ash is that if I know Border's not good in a matchup, on the search any monster combo, I can just search Ash. And I'm like, you know what, let me just grab something generic that I know will hit any one card that I want out of their hand. With Ash and move on from there. But yep, good lineup. Otherwise, just I think at locals, Shifter's a little bit worse because you're not going to expect to play a ton of meta. Like if I was playing like Drytron all day and Dragon Link and Phantom Knight and all that stuff, Tri Brigade, like that card's going to be nuts all day. And 2 of those matchups were what it was good against. But against local stuff, you know, you're going to run into stuff where it's not going to be the best thing in the world. Then for the ZEFRA spells, we've got quadruple Oracle, triple Providence, and 1 Path. Path was insane. It won me a couple duels for sure. And it was also pretty lackluster a couple times. I didn't know what Tony was playing when I played Tony. And he was playing Eldritch, so I activated Path, and Path is usually really good versus Eldritch. I actually activated it both games, and he hard opened the Eldritch both times and just sent the Path. It's like the only way Eldritch beats Path is if they like hard open Eldritch, pretty much. And if it's a pure list, they probably don't play the spell. So like I'm not worried about them using that. But yep. For the last couple spells in the deck, we have triple Prosperity, 1 Called by the Grave. I know, I'm sorry. If you wanted this to be budget, Prosperity does not help that. But this card is huge. This card baited a bunch of Ashes today when I already had good hands. And when I didn't have good hands, it found me the scale I needed to like actually be able to play Zephyrs. So it's one of those cards where like, I get it. You can try to play Desires if you want. I wouldn't recommend Extravagance just because you have a lot of utility 1-ofs in your extra deck and you don't just want to banish the wrong one that you really need. I think Desires is playable. You just like, you're going to banish some of the 1-of traps you want to search sometimes. You're going to banish Path sometimes. You can play it at 2, but then your list gets a little bit more bricky. So I think it can still work and it can be decent. I just think Prosperity is 100% the correct choice. And then Called is called. Like, I didn't want to get drolled. I didn't want to get ashed on the wrong card on like a bad hand and like just lose and you know how it is. Then for the traps, double War, 1 Divine Strike, 1 9 Pillars. Down to 2 War. I used to play 3, but we're only playing 2 now, so that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. So 40 in the main, not messing around. We want to see Zefrath plus a low scale in every single hand. Into the extra for Lynx, Gravity Controller, Lambda. Lambda's just there to make Gamma live sometimes, and it's a beater that opens up zones. Gravity Controller is so good in this deck. It allows you to clear stuff out of the extra monster zone after you've pen summoned them and summon them again, and now have 2 link materials, which is really good. This comes up like almost every single duel. This card is so good. 1 Asa, 1 Lino, 1 IP for the rest of the Link 2s. They all point down, so they help us get bigger Link summons. IP came up actually against Thunder Dragon. Being able to link this into access code was huge just because it made him indestructible. So Titan couldn't out him, and neither could Dragoon, even if he got that far. So we'd have to make like a Unicorn play. And if I just had 1 negate, I just had to negate the Unicorn, and I'm like, he doesn't have another out for that. So that was big. These come up all the time because like some of your Zephyrs are light and earth. You can potentially get another link material, but also they open up zones and they float, which is really good. Just float into more monsters. So they come up all the time. 1 Unicorn, 1 access code for the rest of the links. You could definitely play Boral Sword here. I know this is another budget thing for people. Boral Sword is definitely playable for sure. I think this card's probably overall better just because of the removal, but still, Unicorn's just great. Also, Exceeds, 1 Utopia Beyond, 1 Dampier Vampire Sheridan. Never used this card. Never needed to. Thought about it once, but I think I lost that duel because I just couldn't play through Interruption to get to that card. And then 1 in Sheridan. Yeah, he's cool. You pair him with Metaphys Horus, and the combo's like insane. This card like will negate an opponent, any opponent's face-up card forever, and force them to give you one of their monsters, and then you can overlay for this card, and then he sends another card, gets you another body on board, and you just get like a ton of value off of making like a Synchro 6 with like minimum investment. It's really crazy. 1 Wind Pegasus ad Ignister, 1 Psyframe Lord Omega. This card you can make on your way to making another card in the extra deck, and it just puts this engraved and makes your board like super annoying to out, and a lot of decks just can't work around it. Omega's just there for when you Gamma. If you resolve Gamma on your turn and you're able to like do a Zephyr play, you just like win the duel. It's just over. They're like 2 cards out of the hand, and you're going like +2 if you're doing the Zephyr combo. So it's like very hard to lose those duels. Then for the rank 9 or Synchro 9s, 1 Shen, 1 Crocker Dragon. I did not make Shen all day. I thought I might once or twice. Didn't end up happening. It wasn't the move for me. I could have ended up making this earlier in the duel, or in one of the matches against PK, but I ended up going with the search what's his face play, because I wasn't sure what the guy was playing. It was game 1, but that would have obviously been good. But yep, Crocker Dragon came up like multiple times to do the play, and then 1 Nirvana High Paladin. This card's really cool. Didn't make it yesterday. I honestly got it yesterday, so I'm honestly just not like 100% confident playing with this card just yet, like knowing exactly the lines to make it, but it is really cool. Theoretically, it could be insane. Then for the extra deck, triple Lancia, double Nib for the hand traps, 1 Pank, double these. This is mainly for like Drytron stuff, because you do just lose if they get to the ritual, the Herald. Triple Exchange. This was really good exactly 1 time, and it was in the final round, so I will take that all day. Pretty much made my opponent's hand unplayable. He had 1 card gluing his hand together. Rip took that from him, gave him a useless card. Harpy's Feather Duster never came up. Mind Control came up once or twice. It was actually pretty good. I like it in this deck because you just steal something, link it off, and make plays, whatever. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can make like a funny synchro play with it. And then double Evenly. I sided Evenly, but I never saw it. So yeah. But yeah, then I guess we should move to the matchups here in round 1. We started off playing against Bird Up. I believe it was a 2-0. The first game seemed a little shaky. I went first, and I started by activating Shifter and then just doing a basic Zephyr play. But it was enough. Once I saw what he was playing, I mean, everybody knows that at most, Tri-Brigade plays through like 1 interruption, but they can't beat 2 of them usually. So that kind of sealed it up there pretty quickly. And then game 2, I don't remember exactly what happened in game 2. I think he opened okay, but I don't remember what I drew. But whatever, his board was just like not great. Actually, I'm pretty sure I Lancia'd him. So Lancia was good today, just because I played a Tri-Brigade deck. But yep, it was fine. So we got the 1-0 dub there. Moving on to round 2, I played Tony. He is on Eldritch Pure. Game 1, like I said, I went first, I think, and I did the Zephyr Path play, and I didn't know what he was playing. He showed that he was playing Eldritch, and I was like, oh boy. I was like, he was like, you either have to have like a trap that removes other back row, or you have to have like the Golden Lord in hand. And he did, and he sent it, and he ended up just whittling me down there. I couldn't come back from it, unfortunately. Then in game 2, I went first again, set up Path, because I'm like, I dare you to have out Golden Lord in hand. And he actually goes Evenly first, and I keep the Path, because Path doesn't leave the field if everything's banished, only if stuff is destroyed. So he's still under Path, and he also opened the Eldritch, and I was like, come on, dude. But funny enough, I still had 2 or 3 cards in hand, end up drawing for turn, I pass, I take a hit to the life points, and then I start establishing scales, and he doesn't have a lot of good back row versus other back row. He has like back row that combats like other, like a lot of the meta decks, like combo decks. And so he couldn't really interact with me that great, and so I was able to actually like reestablish, set up walls, and like eventually out-resource him to the point where I was able to like make a unicorn, spin one of his Golden Lords, and then attack just before we went into time, and I just barely edged him out in game 2, and we ended up drawing then. Although I am pretty sure I was coming back in that duel, and I was going to end up winning that duel overall, just because I I was like starting to regain my resources, and I do think this deck outgrinds Eldritch overall, because you can just set up walls that like Eldritch has trouble breaking through and actually like killing you through. So I was able to reestablish. I think I would have won that game, and then it would have gone down to a game 3. But we went to time, so I will take it. You know, pulling a draw out of the clutches of defeat, I will take. Then we go to round 3. Round 3, I played against Subterror. I believe he won the die roll, and it wasn't any like. So I feel kind of bad because he played Subterror, but he only opened. He opened Guru both games, but didn't see City, so he couldn't like consistently get the Guru flipping. And so like it didn't work out, and he didn't have Final Battle either. So he just like couldn't really get his Subterror stuff going. He was able to stall me for a couple turns. I wanted to be safe and see what his backer was. I didn't want to just willy-nilly attack into the Guru and get Final Battled. So I kind of played it slow until I could get stuff like Zefraxiton and Thubin into the extra deck. That way I could start pen summoning those and start threatening with removal before I try to go battle phase, and just grinded him there. He also drew like a bunch of hand traps. I think he ashed me twice. And that was just like, I was like, yeah, I mean, like, this deck doesn't really lose to, like, Ash at all. So, like, he's just going -1 in the hand while I'm just, like, going neutral, like, usually. So, I was like, that's fine. And then game 2, kind of the same thing. I mean, like, he sided, didn't see it. He saw Guru, but no City. And by the time he got to City, I had a negate established. So I was able to just negate the City activation, and that was all she wrote there. So again, and he drew like double Ash Veiler over the course of that duel. And that was a slightly grindy match as well, just because I was playing it safe. I didn't really feel like an offensive threat from his deck, so I didn't really want to like overextend and get punished by some trap cards. So played it slowly, like grinded, tried to pop his stuff one by one, and eventually got there, and we take those. So at that point we are 2-0-1, and that's when we moved to round 4, where we played Phantom Knights. And this one was tough, okay, because my opponent like very clearly shows Phantom Knights very early. I'm like, okay, we're playing Phantom Knights. But I had one question because I had Gamma in my hand, and I was like, I think the one thing I'm really scared of is Dragoon. So I kind of just held the Gamma in my hand, and I think I held it like one activation too long, because that was when I realized he's not playing Dragoon. I was like, and he ended up making like the Arc Rebellion, or the Dark Requiem Dragon, and that's when I was like, shoot, I should have just done the Rusty Bardiche. The Bardiche was definitely the move, because he doesn't end on much if I Gamma the Bardiche. So it's tough. It is what it is. You know, that was my fault. So I lose game 1 because I just couldn't break down the... I actually did like a cool play. I don't remember what I did, but I did a cool play, and I threatened the Dark Requiem. No, I crashed the Dark Requiem with something that was 3,000. I can't remember what it was. And then like, but I just couldn't beat the rest of his board. So, you know, it is what it is. And then game 2, we side. I go first, and I just kind of put him under... I believe I do the path border play, and he literally just like can't beat it. He scoops pretty quick. He tries to play turn 1. He tries to work around border, and it just like doesn't work. He realized that like it's just going to be too tough. He put some bodies on the field, but then once I had like one negate, once he committed to like a bigger link monster, I just like negated it immediately, and he was like, yep, that's where I pass. So that one was over pretty quick. And then we go to game 3, and game 3 was insane, guys. Seriously, game 3, I literally opened Nib. What did I open? Oh, yeah. I opened Nib, Shifter, Lancia in my hand. So I start by shifting as soon as he, like, puts 2 monsters on the field. So as soon as he wants to start making a link 2, I just shifter him. And then as he's like, actually, I think I can actually get to something okay here. And then as soon as he puts, like, he has, like, 4 or 5 monsters on the board, I just nib him. And then everything's banished. He's like, yeah. He's like, I could do something under Shifter. I just can't do anything under Shifter plus Nib. That's crazy. And I didn't even have to use the Lancia. So I literally just held Lancia for the next turn. I think I dealt him some damage, set up an interruption or 2. And between Lancia and like an Omni Negate, he just couldn't break through it. And we took game 3. So very happy with those. I'm always happy when I lose game 1 and I'm able to stay composed, side correctly, play my game, even going second in game 3, and pull a dub out of losing game 1. And then we got to round 5, which I played against Thunder Dragon. It's like Chaos Thunder Dragon. It's a cool build where he just tries to make Titan with Dragoon a lot of the time. And it's pretty good. I lost to it last week when I played against it. But game one, I set up Path, and me and him both learn very quickly. Path does almost nothing to Thunder Dragon. It stops like exactly Thunder Dragon Roar and like Hawk, but you don't even usually use Hawk's Reborn effect. So I'm like sitting there like, gosh, this does nothing. This really does nothing. I just went for my most powerful play, but it doesn't really seem to matter much here. So he took game one pretty easily. Then we went to game two, and I go first, and this is the one game where I actually saw exchange. My hand was like standard, right? It was like Zefra low scale and like exchange with another, I don't even know what the other two cards were, but I just end up going like, yep, just, pendulum summon for a search for a negate, and then I pass. And then, but I exchanged him. So I took the Chaos Space out of his hand. I saw the rest of his hand, and I was like, none of this works without Chaos Space. And he was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, you're right. So that was a pretty easy dub. And then we went to round three. Round three, he bricked, and he was like, you ready for this turn one play? He goes, set to pass. And it did nothing. And like, and neither of them were Twin Twister. I was like, if one was Twin Twister, you just pop my scales, you're going to set me back a couple turns. And he's like, nah, no Twin Twisters. One of them was like Droplet, which is fine, but not good versus this deck. So we just grinded it out a little bit. He couldn't really establish until he like drew like 2 turns later. And yeah, by that time I had already like established too much. I had too many interruptions, and it was all she wrote. So 4-0-1. It went insanely well. I honestly was taking like some fun decks more than anything, and I was getting clapped a little bit, so I was kind of tired of like taking that stuff. I was like, you know what? I never gave ZEFRA the due it deserves, and I've gone 3-2 a bunch of times, 4-1 with the top 4, but I never got first place with it. So I'm very happy that I was able to actually make good on that finally. This deck is legit. Seriously, if you play this deck, do not take it lightly. I'm not saying it's gonna ace you every time, but I am saying like if you're not ready, you'll lose. You really will. So that is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like I said before, check out Tony's channel and the deck profile we had for that. And let me know your thoughts on the list. What would you change? Because I am considering changing border. I already said in the other list, the other profile too, I would swap the one of Ash Blossom and the Called by the Grave for 2 triple tactics talents. It's just, they were getting a mega to reprint, so I was really excited to pick them up, and then they were like $45, and I was like, that's still like insane. So I'm holding off for now, but we'll see down the line if we go that route, because it is a really good card in the deck. Because we like to grind, so at some point your opponent's going to have to activate a monster effect on your turn, and that's when triple tax is insane. So that's going to do it for here. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. You want to see more stuff from me down the line, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.